Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be another 5 basics of health video. This one is going to be on sunlight. Since the 1930s, there have been numerous studies and debates discussing the effects of sunlight on the human body. For several decades, the discussion was focused mostly on the negative effects of the sunlight. And while these effects, of course, have their place and validity, there are plenty of positive side effects and actually necessary side effects of sunlight as well. Today I'll be going over both sides of the argument, what the differentiating factors are, and how you can put yourself in a position to benefit the most from sunlight. You can literally Google all of this as far as like the positive and negatives of sunlight. I'm just going to kind of spitball the general subjects I've found after going into some research on them and go in depth on specific ones I feel need highlighting. So the potential negative side effects of sunlight are, again, in a general sense, they do get more specific from here: cancer, heat stroke, exhaustion or injuries, premature aging, skin problems, and eye and vision problems, including cataracts. Negatives probably need the least amount of discussing because it's been talked about and pushed out through the news way more than the positives. So as far as the positives go, some of the more notable effects would be potential weight loss. It heals certain skin conditions, kills bacteria, improves depression, aligns your circadian rhythm, improves blood pressure, reduces inflammation, is good for psychological stress and cognitive function, and the number one positive side effect is vitamin D, and we will get very into that in just a few minutes. So 2 of those things that I do want to touch on a little bit more specifically, one of them is your circadian rhythm and how sunlight affects that. So I'm just gonna read from the paper. Sunlight is a cue for your internal clock. Exposure to sunlight in the morning can stimulate alertness and wakefulness and suppress production of melatonin, which means that come nighttime, as the sun starts to set, the opposite effect happens, and melatonin is then released into the body to help you sleep. So what it does is it aligns your body to the sun cycle. So sunlight is your body's cue for waking up, stimulates wake up hormones, and sunset is your body's cue for going to sleep, stimulates melatonin. Okay, so the other one I want to talk about is reducing your blood pressure, and how it does this is sunlight is reacting with nitrate oxide on the top layer of your skin, causing blood vessels to widen and reducing your blood pressure in the rest of your body. So your blood pressure is the rate at which your heart has to pump blood throughout your body. So the higher your blood pressure, the more it takes for your heart to pump that blood through, the more effort it has to put into it. So if your blood vessels are like extremely contracted, we'll say, it's harder to get as much blood to the different parts of your body versus if they are wider, right? Which is what the sunlight does when it reacts to the nitrite oxide. When it widens it, it allows the blood to move a lot easier and more blood at each time to all of your extremities and organs and everything, so that your heart doesn't have to work as hard, hence lowering your blood pressure. So, vitamin D. Vitamin D is one of the most important benefits of sunlight, and it's one of the only ways you can get vitamin D is from the sun. So vitamin D is it's a very contributing factor to different cancers, bone problems, arthritis, you name it, right? Anything having to do with your metabolism, right? Vitamin D can have an effect on that. Signs of vitamin D deficiency include the very lengthy list of the following: muscle pain, bone pain, increased sensitivity to pain, pins and needles in your hands and feet, muscle weakness, waddling when you're walking due to weakness in your hips and legs, history of broken bones, muscle twitches, tremors and spasm. Bowed legs would be in a rather severe cases, rickets, which would be often found in kids with the vitamin D deficiency, and weak bones, which lead to arthritis. So needless to say, vitamin D is a very important vitamin that we need to be getting in, and one of the best ways to do it is through sunlight. Some causes of lack of vitamin D or being vitamin D deficient are lack of sunlight, darker skin, malnutrition, kidney and liver failure, certain medications, family history, inflammatory bowel disease, celiac disease, cystic fibrosis, bariatric surgery for weight loss, resections, and conditions affecting the pancreas. So if you tend to have bone issues and you go to the doctor, they'll test your vitamin D and calcium levels. The reason they test both is because vitamin D and calcium work together to build and protect your bones. It reduces inflammation via modulation of processes. So cell growth, neuromuscular and immune function, and your glucose metabolism. Choose your body's metabolism for processing glucose and utilizing the glucose in your body. And if you've heard me talk about glucose, which I don't really think I talk about it too much with my clients, but glucose is why carbs are important. Glucose is the molecule that your body uses to produce ATP, which is the energy molecule in your body. You get your glucose from the carbs, glucose becomes ATP, and vitamin D has a influence on how your body processes the glucose. Now, it's very easy for me to say, hey, yeah, go outside whenever it's sunny, but sometimes you live in a very, very dark state, a rainy state, or sometimes it's winter and it gets very dark and you don't have as much sunlight, hence we have something called seasonal depression. I don't know if that makes sense. Lack of sunlight, seasonal depression, I don't know. There are ways to get vitamin D without sunlight. Some would be from supplements, right? It's probably like the number one thing, which would be, there's two types. You have vitamin D2 and vitamin D3. D2 is based from plants, D3 is based from animals. Doctors will usually prescribe you to do vitamin D3. If you have bone issues, it could be from a lack of vitamin D or calcium, so what your doctor may prescribe either or both. You can get it from tuna, salmon, and sardines, egg yolks, milk, and foods fortified with vitamin D, like cereals and orange juice, that sort of thing. So that's all nice and dandy to know the positive side effects of sunlight and the importance of vitamin D, but how do we make sure that we get the positive effects and minimize our risk to get the negative effects? I'm gonna tell you. There are a couple of variables to look at. First thing is genetics, and this is the thing that you will have the least control over. Mostly having to do with skin pigmentation, hereditary allergens, and repair processes. There isn't much currently known on the creation of color beyond like, hey, parent 1, parent 2, they mix together to create this color, but sometimes they mix together to create another color. The most that is certain is that those with lighter skin pigmentation have a greater advantage to absorbing vitamin D, however have way less UVR protection. Whereas those with darker skin pigmentation have greater UVR protection, but are more prone to vitamin D deficiencies due to their, not lack of being able to absorb it, but it takes more sun exposure to get it. So the next one is hydration. We will talk way more on hydration when the water video comes out, because that is another one of the fundamentals of health. But hydration, it regulates your body temperature, supports brain function and mood, lubricates our joints, and keeps our digestion smooth. In the heat, our body sweats to cool us down and regulate our body temperature. This, of course, means you need to drink more water when it's hot. If you are drinking a lot of water but are still showing signs of dehydration, your body may not be absorbing the water and you need to consume some electrolytes. Dehydration is one of the leading causes of heat exhaustion, strokes, and other heat injuries alike. The next thing is exposure time. So how long you're out in the sun and what time you're out in the sun. Generally, you'll feel when you need to step inside, right? We all know what it's like to feel super overheated. However, not always. So some signs that it's time to go get some shade, go inside, get into some cool water would be you feel very tired, a lack of focus, skin is starting to burn, you're getting increasingly thirsty, hungry, and overall you just start to feel very drained. You could experience some cotton mouth, your skin might start to get a little bit pale. If you stand up, you may get some dizziness. Like, those are some signs that you really need to go go cool off. The time you can handle being outside varies from person to person and depends heavily on other factors. Ultimately, any time of day works. The hotter and brighter it is, in theory, the less time you'll need to stay outside. One of the best times to go outside is in the morning, because morning sun absorption, specifically like we talked about before, is what regulates your circadian rhythm with the rise and fall of the sun. Not to mention, the sun is way less intense, so you're able to go out there and get a lot of that vitamin D with less risk to heat injuries. All right, so the last thing we're going to talk about as far as the differentiating factors is protection. Sunglasses, hats, sunscreen, water source, appropriate outdoor clothing, hydrating fruits, covered in shaded areas, ice packs, and literally anything that you can think of that'll keep your body regulated, your body hydrated, and your skin and eyes protected from the sun, especially your eyes. Your eyes are very, very sensitive. You should not be looking directly at the sun. And some specific risks to your eyes. Light and photosensitivity and cataracts, which I'm pretty sure I mentioned cataracts already. So wear your sunglasses. So that's pretty much it. You get the positives and negative side effects of sunlight, the importance of vitamin D, and how to get the most from sunlight and mitigate your risk to the negatives. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Mwah!